California has long been romanticized as a land of opportunity, a beacon for those seeking a better life. But beneath the golden promise lies a history stained with violence, discrimination, and exclusion, especially for Chinese immigrants who arrived in the 19th century. Their story, vividly captured in Michael Luo's Strangers in the Land, is not just a historical account. It's a warning about how fear and nationalism can shape a nation's policies and attitudes. As tensions between the U.S. and China intensify in the 21st century, the question arises: could history repeat itself? Chinese immigrants began arriving in the U.S. in large numbers during the California gold rush of the 1850s, lured by the promise of wealth and opportunity. However, they soon found themselves at the mercy of a society that saw them as expendable labor rather than equals. Initially tolerated when their cheap labor was needed, they were quickly scapegoated when economic downturns led to job shortages. By the 1860s and 1870s, Chinese immigrants were indispensable to the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad. They endured brutal working conditions, often forced to perform the most dangerous tasks, including blasting through mountains and laying tracks in freezing temperatures. Despite their significant contributions, they were systematically underpaid and frequently denied the rights afforded to white laborers. When the railroad was completed in 1869, their usefulness, at least in the eyes of many white Americans, had run its course. As the American economy shifted, white laborers began seeing the Chinese as competitors rather than contributors. Fueled by a mix of economic anxieties and racial prejudices, anti-Chinese sentiment spread like wildfire. Newspapers published inflammatory articles painting Chinese workers as job-stealing threats. Political figures, eager to win votes, stoked fears of a yellow peril, warning that unchecked Chinese immigration would lead to the ruin of American society. The violence that followed was horrifying. In 1871, a mob of hundreds stormed Los Angeles' Chinatown, killing 18 Chinese residents in what became one of the worst racial massacres in U.S. history. Similar pogroms occurred in cities like San Francisco, Tacoma, and Seattle. In many cases, perpetrators of these crimes faced little to no punishment, reinforcing the idea that Chinese lives were disposable. The culmination of this anti-Chinese hysteria came in 1882 with the passage of the Chinese Exclusion Act, the first federal law in U.S. history to ban immigration based on race. It not only halted new Chinese immigration, but also made life unbearable for those already in America. Chinese residents were denied citizenship, barred from owning land, and, in many cases, forced into segregated ghettos. The law remained in place until 1943, when geopolitical necessities during World War II prompted its repeal. While the violence of the 19th century is largely confined to history books, its underlying sentiments seem eerily familiar today. In the wake of rising tensions between the U.S. and China, ranging from trade wars to concerns over espionage and technology, the perception of Chinese people in America has once again shifted. In recent years, reports of anti-Asian hate crimes have surged, particularly following the COVID-19 pandemic. A Pew Research study found that nearly 1 in 3 Asian Americans experienced racial slurs or discrimination in 2021. The rhetoric surrounding China's global influence, particularly from U.S. political figures, has also contributed to a renewed sense of suspicion toward Chinese nationals, students, and even Chinese American citizens. The number of Chinese students studying in the U.S., once a symbol of educational and cultural exchange, has plummeted. In 2016, there were approximately 372,000 Chinese students in American universities. By 2024, that number had fallen to 290,000. A drop fueled in part by tightening visa restrictions and growing fears of espionage allegations. Many Chinese students now feel unwelcome in the very institutions that once prided themselves on international inclusivity. Michael Luo's book doesn't just recount past injustices, it serves as a reminder that history is cyclical. The discrimination faced by 19th century Chinese immigrants wasn't just about race. It was about economic fear, political opportunism, and national identity. Today, as the U.S. grapples with its relationship with China, similar patterns are emerging. The notion that Chinese individuals, whether immigrants or citizens, pose a unique threat to American interests echoes the same arguments made over a century ago. Even the legal battles of the past remain relevant. The landmark 1898 Supreme Court case United States versus Wong Kim Ark, which affirmed birthright citizenship for Chinese Americans, is once again under scrutiny. Some U.S. political figures have proposed revisiting the 14th Amendment to restrict automatic citizenship, a move that would disproportionately affect Asian and Latin American immigrant families. While history offers stark warnings, it also provides hope. The repeal of the Chinese Exclusion Act and the eventual recognition of Asian American rights were hard-fought victories, achieved through decades of activism, legal battles, and shifting public attitudes. Today, recognizing the contributions of Chinese Americans and resisting the urge to scapegoat an entire community for geopolitical tensions is crucial in ensuring the country doesn't repeat its darkest chapters. America has long prided itself on being a land of immigrants, a nation built by diverse cultures and perspectives. But that identity has been tested time and again. The story of Chinese immigrants in the 19th century serves as a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of what happens when fear overrides reason. As the U.S. and China continue to navigate their complicated relationship, one thing is clear. The fate of Chinese Americans, just like in the past, will likely be caught in the crossfire. The real question is, have we learned from history, or are we doomed to repeat it?